Hey everyone, I'm Tassenix and welcome back to another mod guide video. This time we're covering the B2 Super Battle Droid as part of the General Grievous Separatist Droids team. So, before we go any further, let's dig into the TLDR for B2 Super Battle Droid. Set types should be some type of mix of defense, tenacity, maybe even potency if you had to. I would recommend that least though, because we stack potency in this team. The arrow should be crit avoidance or protection. I do prefer the crit avoidance. There's a strong amount of it getting handed out from B1, and then having this arrow on top of it makes this character much more resilient. He is a super high priority target for your team to go after because he punishes you if you go after any of his allies first. So if you didn't have the crit avoidance arrow, would go with prot instead. Circle should be prot. Triangle should be prot. And the cross, I do strongly recommend to be tenacity because my own mods have a lot of tenacity on it, and the key to this character is for him to not be locked down. So would really strongly advocate for that primary. If for some reason you didn't have it, or if you had a great amount of tenacity otherwise, which is very hard to do, you could go with a prot, cross. That would be okay. All right, turn order. Dead last. He actually has passive turn meter gain that actually will just fill his whole turn meter, as we're about to see. So there doesn't need to be a particular emphasis on speed. Everything should really be about survivability first and then potency second, I would say. So with that in mind, his stat priority, I personally believe, should be tenacity over protection over potency. All right. There's your TLDR. Let's remind ourselves real briefly about the leadership from General Grievous, so daunting presence. All enemies have minus 40% critical avoidance and minus 50% defense. Whenever a dark side droid ally is resisted, that droid gains 10% potency, stacking for the rest of the encounter. Target locked enemies can't counterattack. When a target locked enemy is damaged, each droid and each separatist ally gain 2% turn meter, doubled for Grievous. So that's 4% for all Separatist droids and 8% for Grievous himself. When damaged by an attack, dark side enemies lose 5% turn meter, and light side enemies lose 2% potency, stacking. Okay, serious stuff. Let's talk about his uniques, starting with Reactive Protocol. B2 has a 40% chance to reduce its cooldowns by 1 whenever a Separatist ally is evaded or damaged by an attack. Whenever B2 inflicts a debuff, all other Separatist droid allies gain 5% turn meter. Okay, and we'll see how this works with the rest of his kit. His next unique, Relentless Barrage. B2 has a 40% chance to gain 100% turn meter whenever another ally is evaded or damaged by an attack. Target locked enemies have minus 25% crit chance and minus 25% evasion. Really powerful uniques here, right? So let's see what this actually means. Let's get into his basic heavy arms. Deal physical damage to target enemy. If target was target locked, inflict critical damage down for 2 turns. Otherwise, inflict target lock for 2 turns. It's really important to remember how powerful this basic is. Let's say you've already got target lock on the entire enemy team, and if you have the opportunity on B1's turn to hit an attacker with this, somebody who's looking to do big critical damage, that's nice. Okay, this is the money. This ability, Mow Down. Deal physical damage to all enemies and dispel all positive status effects on them, with an 80% chance to also inflict buff immunity for 2 turns, applied before the damage. So it's interesting that it says that it has an 80% chance to inflict the buff immunity for 2 turns, but it is applied before the damage. And why is that important? Because of the unique that says whenever he's inflicting a debuff, all other Separatist droid allies gain 5% turn meter, and then he'll do the damage from Mow Down, and if the enemies were target locked by that, he stimulates further turn meter generation for the team. All right, so, B1, I call him the engine of the team. This guy is like the backup engine, I guess. I mean, he fulfills a different function, but the idea here with his kit is that if you're going after any of his allies, odds are he's going to be resetting pretty often and just hitting you with the mow down. And there's no right way to be taking that, right? Like you're going to be just getting walloped from all sides. You're going to have buff immunity getting thrown down, target lock on top of it, and you know, woe unto they who don't manage B2 or, you know, just kill them outright. So, as far as team comps and turn order goes, I'll refer you back to the General Grievous video for the full details, but everything you see here is listed in terms of turn order. It is, in 5 versus 5, Snap will go first, especially with his Omicron, then B1, General Grievous, Magna, and B2 last. In 3 versus 3, I do like B2, sometimes General Grievous and Snap, if I feel like I need B1 elsewhere, like a Newt Django kind of thing. Something like that, Newt Django B1. But, yeah, otherwise, I really prefer the comp that has B1 in it. All right, let's talk about the mods directly. Okay, so I inspected a few top-end players, and there's a couple different ways folks are doing this. Most of us are going for survivability for the reasons I mentioned. And, like, for example, Kabuki Warrior, one of the top players in the game, he has a mix of defense and potency, okay? No particular emphasis on adding a bunch of speed. He made sure he was over 100% potency, and even though you are stacking buffs, or stacking potency every time you're getting resisted, you really want to be landing your debuffs immediately, as soon as you can in the fight. There's such a synergy for hitting debuff targets, and him being able to land those buff immunities at all is another 5% turn meter per each getting fed out to the whole team. So high potency makes a lot of sense. His tenacity is fairly low. Remember that if B1 has 100 stacks of Droid Battalion, he's handing out 50% tenacity, and I want to say a similar amount of crit avoidance to the entire team. So the tenacity, maybe he feels he can do a little without. I personally would prefer to go tenacity, and maybe even sacrifice this potency primary, because I understand why he's going for it. Maybe I'd look for mods that had some more potency in the sides, something like that. But it's tough to leave that behind. Still, he's one of the top players in the game, and I didn't want to neglect that. Another way to go is ASOPs. This is, I'm not going to be doing this, and I've never seen this. I think it's insane, but I also think it's pretty cool. It's pretty ambitious. You see that he actually went with a speed arrow. My guess is it's because of the mix of the secondaries that's on there. But because you're spamming mow down, Aesop's thinking that, you know, if he's going to just be spamming an AoE physical damage, why not have it slap a bit? So he's thinking like me to have a strong amount of tenacity added in here, right? So he's going to be just over 200% tenacity with a, you know, fully loaded 100 stack B1. This very high potency is excellent. He's just going to be ripping people straight out the gate. Armor is decent, you know, 68% for not being in any kind of tank sets. Pretty good. What was it on Kabuki? 74, yeah. So that's the benefit of the defense modding. Being over 70% is any type of tank or damage soaking character. Great place to be. So I respect that. I do like the crit avoidance on Kabuki, so. So yeah, there's a couple different ways that we looked at there, but here's mine. This is, I think, you know, a pretty middle of the way, good way to go. If I could pull off this with like these two potency mods being defense, I guess I'd prefer that, but then my potency would be really low. So let's take a look at it. We got the crit avoidance arrow, protection triangle, tenacity cross, protection circle, okay? No particular emphasis on speed added, just over 200 as the case may be. We are over 150% tenacity. I really strongly recommend a high tenacity because him getting locked down is the worst thing. You know, he's just a useless lump if he gets shocked or dazed. And, you know, if Magna Guard is otherwise locked down or already killed and he can't use his cleanse to free up the B2, it's not good. So the high tenacity I definitely roll with. We're over 70% armor. Wow, so I actually have some... This is why I was able to pull this off. That's right. I've actually got some pretty crazy banging defense in this setup. So you're kind of looking for that blend of stats, right? I would say as a general mark, like that I went for 150% tenacity, 90+% potency, and 70% armor with the primaries that I specified here. You can push that up as high as you feel you can, but now you understand the theory behind why we want those numbers up there, all right? So yeah, make sure he's survivable, make sure he's tenacious, and he's just going to strip the enemy bare and push your team into overdrive. All right. As far as counters, yeah, I mean in 5 versus 5, like how you apply this team, I'll refer you back to the GG video where I covered it in more detail, but you definitely run over anything that you can, like all these dark side teams, you're stripping turn meter off them, right? So you just run laps around them. And then these other teams, they are kind of helpless in the face of your turn meter generation. So, you know, the light side teams aren't really done any favors there either. That's 5s, and then I guess I'll briefly flash 3 versus 3 at you. Yeah, people were going after, what was it? What are some of the better teams? It looks like a lot of B teams on this screen. Wow, a lot of B teams. Maul, yeah, I think he's more interesting as a defensive setup in 3s. But where is B2? Here. Okay, Iden, that's hot. Dig that. Now I think a 57's full banners, so dropping 7 banners to do this is kind of not great. But the fact that you can do it in a pinch is nice. Because a lot of matches get ended on Iden going after DTMG is good. Padme is good. Yeah, so he's like just a B team destroyer, and I don't know that he's really getting used against anything too much higher than that offensively. If you put the love into this team and set it on defense somewhere, I've generally been pretty satisfied with that Omicron stat. It's pretty cool. Okay, so I think that about wraps this one up. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and hit subscribe to see more from the channel. Of course, really appreciate all of the encouraging feedback and comments from you guys. I enjoy interacting with you. Really appreciate that you guys are getting so much out of these, so I'm going to keep it going. Until next time, it's been real. It's been awesome. It's been real awesome. Take care.